The Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, gave a shocking answer in regards to what habeas corpus is. And stay to the end of the video because it really reveals two things about the Trump administration's thinking in terms of what they may plan to do with removing habeas corpus, and really gives us an insight into their overall thinking about how immigration law should work in this country. But before we look at that, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot with the algorithm. Now let's go ahead and over to Mediaite here, where we have an article that says DHS Secretary Kristi Noem confidently bombs question about habeas corpus in shocking hearing exchange. Let's go ahead and hear what Kristi Noem had to say.
So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right
let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President
habeas
Lincoln
corpus,
used it.
Excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason. Habeas corpus is the foundational right that separates free societies like America from police states like North Korea. As a senator from the Live Free or Die state, this matters a lot to me and my constituents and to all Americans. So, Secretary Noem, do you support the core protection that habeas corpus provides, that the government must provide a public reason in order to detain and imprison someone?
Yeah, I support habeas corpus. I also recognize that the President of the United States has the authority under the Constitution to decide if it should be suspended or not.
It has never
Let us be clear, though, that this president...
It has never been done without approval of Congress. Even Abraham Lincoln got retroactive approval from Congress.
Yes, Abraham Lincoln did. And so here's the thing, you know, there's some shocking arrogance here on display from Kristi Noem with her talking over this gal that's asking the question, and you know, just shocking arrogance on display of basically what we think and what we interpret the Constitution is, that's what it is. And if people like Stephen Miller, we know they've been contemplating doing things like removing habeas corpus, and we know that these conversations have been going on. And basically what this indicates is that the way the Trump administration is looking at habeas corpus is something that is potentially in their way of removing undocumented immigrants in this country. And that would lead people like Stephen Miller to float ideas to the media like, oh, well, maybe we're going to suspend it. And apparently that's picking up steam with now Kristi Noem contemplating the idea, saying, oh, well, Abraham Lincoln did it back in the day. Well, the circumstances in which Abraham Lincoln removed habeas corpus and the circumstances in which the Donald Trump administration is seeking to remove it are vastly, vastly different. And, you know, this is like the same vein of the Republicans pretending that that they're the party of Abraham Lincoln, when in fact, Abraham Lincoln would very much so be a Democrat in today's terms because the party ideology switched. So it's completely dishonest for any conservative to pretend that they are the party of Abraham Lincoln. But that kind of seems like it's in the same vein here. And I have some information here on the last time habeas corpus was invoked, and it was, again, during the Civil War when Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus in April 1681. He suspended habeas corpus along the rail lines from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C., to help keep Confederate sympathizers in Maryland from cutting off the Union Capitol. So we were quite literally in a full-on civil war where one side wanted slavery to continue to persist, and Abraham Lincoln's side suspended habeas corpus in order to stop slavery from being a thing anymore in this country. Now, I know that wasn't the core fundamental argument that every single person in the union was going with, but essentially that was the last time it got invoked. The removing of habeas corpus was during the Civil War, and Kristi Noem here, she wants to try to paint a picture where we're in an America that has to have habeas corpus invoked for one reason or another. This is what they're going to try to do, right? Trump's administration is going to say that some sort of invasion of illegal immigrants is happening in one form or another, and that the only way to stop the illegal invasion of America is to suspend habeas corpus and have immigrants be deported out of this country without a trial. And again, that's basically the only thing stopping us from being North Korea or something, where governments just go and just lock up people that they don't like or disagree with them. And what the Trump administration is going to attempt to do is paint a picture of an America that is under an invasion somehow, and use that as a justification for the suspension of habeas corpus. But here's the thing with that, right, is the Trump administration has repeatedly touted the border crossings at the United States-Mexico border are at an all-time low, even lower than they were a year ago. And they were already pretty low even under Joe Biden's administration, that he got hammered for his immigration policy, even though it wasn't that much different than Donald Trump's immigration policy, the administration before him. So I have some numbers here that I will show you here. Arizona sees huge drop in illegal border crossings. Illegal border crossings in Arizona fell dramatically during President Trump's first full month in office, mirroring a national trend. Data shows that illegal border crossings dropped more than 70% between January and February. Now, this is not something that I'm happy about or that I want. I think that America should be a safe space for people to come here, escaping their home countries that are not as suitable, or have, people face violence and poverty back in their home countries. I want people to be able to feel safe immigrating to America. But here's the thing, we have illegal border crossings at an all-time low of just 8,326 illegal apprehensions at the border. Not crossings here, but apprehensions. So 8,326 apprehensions in March of 2025. So you can't claim an invasion is happening whilst claiming the benefit and taking credit for having the border crossings be at an all-time low. The Trump administration wants to have their cake and eat it too in this case, but there is no circumstance and no reality in the United States of America where removing the right, removing the right to a trial granted through habeas corpus is going to be something that is going to make our country a safer place or a better place. All it's going to do is take fundamental rights away from people that are granted to them by the Constitution based on Donald Trump not liking particular different groups of people. That is completely unconstitutional. That is unconscionable. And in the United States of America, it's something that should absolutely not fly. And even just talking about this, even if this never comes to pass, because again, it has to be passed by Congress. I think that this is something that is absolutely despicable to be even discussing as a possibility in the United States of America, a country that supposedly is founded on ideals like everyone has a right to a trial and innocent until proven guilty.